During the Vijayanagara period, that is, when I say Vijayanagara period in South India, I am talking about post 1815, Talikota is 1556, I think, right? 1560s, something. That is, Talikota is when the Vijayanagara Empire collapsed. At that time, people moved, then their outposts in Tanjavur and Madurai and Genji all became independently strong, especially Tanjavur and Madurai became very strong. That seems to be a period of great art, like we discussed in Carnatic music also. That seems to be a period of, that's when Chaturdandi, which I had discussed last time, the Alapa, Thaya, Prabandha, Gita form of high art music was happening in the courts. At that time, in the courts of the Raghunatha Nayak and Vijayaraghava Nayak in Tanjavur, there were many, many great dancers and musicians and poets. I sometimes wonder whether these people really governed, because if you read all these books, I really think they were just, having really good time in their life. Honestly, I'm just saying, what did these guys do? I mean, I wish we had time like this.
It's very interesting because in the north too, in the Ram, Mughal Empire, like
Yeah.
that is
I know. Some of the creators, I'm just digressing here, if you look at it, you have all these horrible wars happening, people fighting, and then you will have this huge poetry about the king's greatness, about how these people were singing, dancing, like, Hyder was just attacking or something. It's like, what are you guys doing here? So it's fascinating on how there seems to be certain bubbles that have always created in these courts, where they had their thing. And even if you take much later in Maratha period, you have a battle happening between one nephew and uncle or something. I forget, he was called the Carter Raja and he was sent away. And they were playing games with the British and one supporting. All this is happening. In between all that, some great music is happening. Like, how is this? I mean, it's kind of really, really weird in its own way. But maybe all these conflicts somewhere trigger art too. Yeah, correct. So anyway, so what happens in the Vijayanagara period? Yeah.
Was there protection for the musicians and all in some sense? Because if
Protection in what sense? From this?
laws change and other things which does happen, the way they interact with violence, would there be some understanding that these courtesans and these people will not be?
I don't know. It's interesting you asked that question, because if you look at the Vijayanagara collapse, it happened in the 16th century. And there was certain independence that was got by these outposts. And that's when music and dance have flourished. Maybe these were, I think usually with courtesans at least, I think they used to be moved. I don't think Devadasis were ever touched. I don't think they were, primarily because they were very connected with temple. And power of the temple was something that is, I think, always protected. So to a large extent, I don't see that really happening. Yeah, of course. So there was I don't think that was happening. I don't really know much about it, to be honest, but your point is quite fair. Must have been that way. So a lot of music. So Raghunatha Nayak, so he mentions about this person, there are mentions about this poet, her name is Rama Bhadraamba. Then another person, Madhuravani, describes how there were so many women who used to play the veena, they were great at music, they were poetically brilliant, and you all know that all these things, they generally say only good things about the king. They never say bad things about them. So the court is full of music, Chaturdandi is played, but it's very interesting that you had male composers there, and you had a lot of women performers. It's very interesting. That whole interaction is very, very, all this is high art, by the way. Then it's very funny, but there are these two dancers, and they have to be named Rambha and Urvashi. They can't find any other name for them, okay? So, Rambha and Urvashi. So, about the talas in which Urvashi danced, and of course, Rambha and Urvashi had to have a dance battle also. They had this battle, and so I'm just saying that there's this whole, and there's also, I think Raghunatha or Vijayanagara description how an auditorium should be, and how there's descriptions on how people appreciated concerts. Like we say in Carnatic music, bale bale. There are descriptions of how people said bale. Such nuanced details, and many of these, by the way, comes from literature that is written about the greatness of the king. And of course, the king was, like a typical Hindi movie almost shot. The king is woken up in the morning with these wonderful women playing music, and what ragas they should play in the morning when he was woken up. So the king almost becomes like the Lord and the thing. So, I'm just saying that there's a lot of music and dance and poetry happening, mainly in Telugu or in Sanskrit. Okay? By then, Tamil to a large extent was not the court language. Once the Vijayanagara Empire had come and their outposts had been created, court language is, like we discussed in the other lectures, becomes Telugu or Sanskrit. And the Marathas who came later, by the way, did not touch that at all. They kind of maintained that very well. They did not change it to be Marathi. Now, what did they dance? Now, we'll come to some form questions. So, there are mentions of older, shall we say, dance forms, but they dance. There are some dancers and scholars who have tried recreating it now, restructuring it now. Again, these are recreations and structurings, to what extent they are exactly like that is debatable and arguable scholastically. But you have forms like this mentioned, like Jakkini, Chaupada, Shabda Chintamani, Korvai, all these are different kinds of dance presentations. And all this is happening in the Vijayanagara period, and music at that time, by the way, is Chaturdandi. It is not Carnatic music as we know today. So these women, they even describe how they played Alapa, how they played Tanam. And you have notations of this in the Saraswati Mahal library that you can reconstruct with. I have sung them and had a look at it. So I mean, those notations are of a slightly later period, but the same idea. We can presume it's more or less the same idea. So these women were, and there was a lot of also, the Yakshagana, the Karnataka tradition of Yakshagana had also come to Tanjavur. Here, I want to again reiterate this Bhagavata Mela tradition. It's a very interesting, came from the Kuchipudi area. Bhagavata Mela came from Kuchipudi. It is again like a theatre presentation. They were given a little village called Melattur. I think it is Achyutappa Nayak, one of the early Nayaks of Tanjavur, who gifted that place and asked them to settle over there. And they settled there, and this is a tradition that continues till date, by the way. So even now, I think it is in the month of May when they had do the Narasimha Avatara whole story, right? And it's all men. And now they're all amateurs, by the way. They're not professional in the sense of what we understand as, of course, how we understand the idea of professional is also very questionable. But they present it.
It's not anymore dance drama, it's more of a bhajan.
No. It is completely dance drama. We've invited them to Chennai and they perform completely dance drama. Yeah, it's not a Harikatha. No, it's completely dance drama. It's done quite beautifully. So they also were, that was also happening. So another thing is in the courts, other than these individual dance items, there was a lot of productions, if you want to use that word, like storytelling, choreography. So there was Yakshagana. Bhagavata Mela was men. Women were not dancing it. Kuravanjis that were also being staged. So you had dance operas happening, you had art, music happening, and all this is happening from about the mid 1500s in the court, and poetry, all this intermingling. Now, the other question that we have to ask is, this is the same time when Raghunatha Nayak was there, and Raghunatha Nayak's reign starts in 1600. His son's reign starts, Vijayaraghav Nayak, I think around 1635-36. That's when I'm going to go back to what I had said during the Carnatic music lecture, when I spoke about the man called Kshetraiya. Kshetraiya is supposed to have visited from Telugu-speaking regions to both these courts, to the father's court and the son's court. And he's supposed to have composed about 1,000 padas. How many zeros I'm supposed to delete from the 1,000, I don't know. But let's just say 1,000 for the sake of believing. And so there is also other influences that are happening. See, musical influences were also influences on dance. Dance influences were also influences on music, like we discussed last time. So he has visited there and he has come. So what were these women doing in the temple? What about the Devadasis in temple? Talk about courtesans. So, and also lot of information you get also about this time is also from the Portuguese. So the Portuguese travelers have traveled to Vijayanagara empires, come up to south. So they talk about women playing long pipes. They talk about the kind of music. So in fact, I referred a lot to that when I was trying to figure out when the Nadaswaram had come. They talk about, but we don't know whether it was the music was the kind of music we're talking about. Pipe was already used, but women were also playing it. So, and here I want to just read out a few interesting observations I had made when I traveled in Tanjavur. So there are frescoes in the Pattishwaram temple. Pattishwaram is in Tanjavur Jilla, around built between 1550 and 1600. So frescoes in the Pattishwaram temple also give us a picture of the way Devadasis presented their art. One of them depicts a dancer in movement with a Nattuvanar in action playing the cymbals. Closely following him is a Mridanga Vidwan, another playing the Idakka. Idakka is, anybody who has seen Kerala instrument, Idakka that was seen. A third who seems to be blowing into the tutti. By the way, the tutti is what later became like the Shruti box. Okay? And a few women who are watching. From this we learn about the importance given to the Devadasi and her troupe as part of the religious and cultural activities of the court and temple. Significantly, almost all the musicians and dancers described in courts are women. Women have played almost every type of instrument, including percussion, a fact born out of beautiful bas reliefs as early as in Dharasuram in the Airavateshwara temple 1150. So you can see that women were playing everything. There's another beautiful part. If any of you go to Tiruvarur, please go to the, I think it's the Ayrangala Mandapam. It's been restored, so please do go. There are frescoes on the ceiling, okay, which is a whole story of Tiruvarur. The Tiruvarur temple story is a fascinating story of the Michukunda, okay, that's a very interesting story. Please go see them, to see the music and dance that were happening. It is beautiful. And there I remember seeing, you know, the different angles in which the dancer will be seen, her positions. And, you know, the Nattu is always bending like that with the cymbals. It's beautiful, it's exquisite. One thing is very clear, is that the role of the dancer is clearly, or the Devadasi is established in the temple and in the court. There is no doubt as art people in the temple and the court, they were very, very powerful and very, very important. Yes, and they were also considered religiously very important for the roles they played. So there's a lot of description about that you can get. If I'm going to move very quickly to the next period, which is the Tanjavur, the period of the Maratha kings. The politics of how they came in is also interesting, but please do read up. I'm sure you can get information online.
There is no singing happening along with the.
There is singing happening. When the dancers were dancing, so the Nattuvanar always sang. Nattuvanar sang. Sometimes you had women with, so it's possible the women were also singing. But if you look at the moment, you generally think that the Nattuvanar is also singing and reciting. Also the Devadasi herself, I was going to say, was also singing. See, one thing is that this whole idea of the dancer not singing is not necessary. The whole Devadasi tradition, the artistic tradition of the Devadasis, they all sing. They all sing and dance. I mean, I have a record. I mean, how many of you here have heard Bala Saraswati? I don't know. But I have a wonderful recording of her brother Vishwa, who used to sing for her and play the flute. He's sitting, you know that he's seated. You must, in the modern era, the accompaniments are on the right. Please remember before the accompaniments were here, but behind the dancer. Just like in Yakshagana. You look at Yakshagana even today, all the instrumentalists and singers are behind. It was the same for Sadir. By the way, Sadir is a Tamil word for the dance that was done by the Devadasis. It was moved to the side of the proscenium stage for the proscenium reasons and the modern reasons or whatever. Okay? In that recording, you will hear Vishwa sing, and after a while, she is singing herself. Bala is singing, and the mic, which is the flow mic, which is held to hold, take her leg movements, will pick up her music. And this whole idea, is she a singer or the dancer, becomes a very confusing debate. You know, the compartmentalization that we have created. So all these Devadasis were learning music. I mean, like I told you, Kamalam, a student of Muthuswami Dikshitar, he's supposed to have composed a very famous Tamil Varnam, Rupamujuchi, for her Arangetram. Musicians, Brahmin musicians learned from Devadasis, Devadasis learned from Brahmin musicians, the Nadaswaram and the Tabil Vidwans were also the part of the community, there was music happening, and also situationally, they were all stationed out of the temple or the court. So there was always contact and music and dance all going between the three communities. This is there right through, at least from the Vijayanagara period, we can very clearly say. From Vijayanagara period right through, this interaction is very clear, and that's probably more relevant to us in terms of what we are trying to understand now. How it was in the Chola period is anybody's a bit of a guess. I'm going to come to that. I probably won't have time today. I'll come tomorrow to that, the form discussion. Like I said, in Chola period, we don't know. Now, going back to the Chola period, because you asked me that, you find in the Brihadishwara temple, if you get permission to go up the Gopuram, the 108 Karanas, as they are known in dance, all the 108 are not there. I think 104 or something are there. So you have a lot of postures that are there. In Bharata's Natya Shastra, there is a description of postures and all that. Now, Dr. Padma Subramaniam has done a lot of research on that, and she has reconstructed a dance. She calls it Bharata Nrityam. She doesn't call it Bharatanatyam. Okay? Now, it is a recreation. But was the form exactly this? It's very, very hard to say. I would say, for example, the music that is there at the Bharata period has got nothing to do with the music. I think that with the body, it may have been slightly different, but yet I don't think it would be right to say that the dance is a continuous thread of that period. No, I am just going to say, even from there if you come, and for the Nayaka period also, we don't know so much. We know a lot about the Tanjavur period, because there is a certain tradition that has come down. But even there has been changes from early 20th century to thing. Well, there has been some changes. Some scholars claim a lot of the movements below the hip were cleansed. Some scholars claim that a lot of the movements that were below the hip were cleansed. So the idea of, again, sexuality, many of these things come. So there is also a back and forth debate on these aspects. But there is no doubt that one fundamental fact that the orientation of the dance was changed between the 19th century and the 20th century is something we have to accept. I'm going to come to that later because it will come in form also. When we discuss form, it will be more, I can clearly give you examples. So the Maratha period is, one thing with the Maratha period is, a lot of what we see today as dance or music has come from the Maratha period. It is this period that has come. I think you would remember that I had said that the idea of art music after the Chaturdandi slowly waned itself out. It waned itself out by 1700 maybe, or maybe in early 18th century. There was a period when there was there's no enough information on any art music itself. And a lot of it was dance related music. So Yakshaganas were there, Kautums were there, all this was happening. And that's when the Varnams came in, the Swarajatis came in, all these dance related compositions. I think that period was definitely more oriented towards dance. And you see a lot of dance related compositions coming in. The Carnatic music as an abstractive idea comes in slightly later. And my very strong hunch there is that it is the Nadaswaram and the Tawil that gave it a huge impetus to recreate an abstractive mold from being music with dance. This is my own very strong feeling. My own very strong feeling vis-a-vis music is that there was a whole period when it was dance related music, and for music to once again get its, shall we say, own voice, an art music voice, the Nadaswaram and Tawil tradition in the 18th century in the Tanjavur area had a very, very strong role to play. Because we had religious music coming from all over the place, which is the Bhakti movement, Bhakti music. You had dance-related compositional music happening, and from then again Alapana was found. From then again improvisation was found, and for which I do believe that the Nadaswaram, the evolving of the Nadaswaram as a strong, explorative, imaginative, creative tool played a very big role for that resurgence. This is, of course, this is my own, that's what I believe. There's no way to either justify it this way or that way. It's just something I feel. There is something called the Nirupanams that you find in the Maratha period. The Nirupanams. The Nirupanams are like dance dramas, okay, which are created around the Maratha period. Few of them have been collected and put into a kind of compilation by the Saraswati Mahal Library, and in which you find a lot of mentions of dance forms. Nirupanams are dance drama. Okay? So different kind of dance forms that are used in Nirupanams. They are important in our context here. Again, some of them are old. Like for the dance during the time of the Vijayanagara, they used dance something called the Jakkini. They called something called the Perani. Now, all Perani, Jakkinis are all not found now. Some scholars say some of the newer forms came from them. Some say they did not come from them. This is debatable, arguable on both sides. But in these Nirupanams, there are certain names and forms that are similar to what are in vogue even later. For example, the Shabdam, the Varnam, the Padam, the Swarajati, the Tillana, the Kauttuvam, all these are found. Okay. Some of them use the same name but structurally are different. Some have parts of the structure that we see today. Some look like something else. But obviously there is a certain evolutionary process that is in play happening between the Vijayanagara period and the Tanjavur period. So this is very, very easy. And I told you about the Kamalam story of Muthuswami Dikshitar. See, that's a textural difference between Dikshitar and Tyagaraja. Tyagaraja's community did not have as much association with the dance tradition or the Devadasis or the Nadaswaram. He had a lot of association with the Nama Sankirtana and the Bhajan traditions. So his music obviously spoke a lot with that. Dikshitar's music spoke very different. Dikshitar's music also speaks of a different kind of a musical tradition, some sort. Shyama Shastri is very different. So you can see from them also a certain understanding them. Very important here is some of the bigger temples had incredible dance operas that were being presented. For example, the Tiruvarur temple, I think it was, where the Pallaki Seva Prabandham used to be presented by Devadasis. Pallaki Seva Prabandham is an operatic ballet. And the whole, I think the story is basically Kamalamba, who's the consort, wants him to meet her. He doesn't come. So finally he says, okay, I'll come and see you, and he's brought in a palanquin. So that's the whole story. That was completely presented by Devadasis. Okay? And there's another Kuravanji called the Tyagesha Kuravanji, and Devadasis up to even the 20th centuries remember some of these things being presented in the Tiruvarur temple as late as 19th century. So some of these traditions of presenting these operatic dance ballets were continuing for even post the Maratha tradition. So that was still happening there. See, another thing is that Devadasis' repertoire was wide and vast. Okay, it was, so that's also, this I'm going to raise an interesting question. See, her dances and her music involved ritual. So for the ritual, there were things like the Pushpanjali. By the way, which Pushpanjali is which also seen in Bharatanatyam today. Pushpanjali is offering of flowers to some lord, but here in the dance stage today, they'll offer it to the Nataraja idol, which is kept on the left-hand side of the stage. But the Pushpanjali was a ritual, was a temple ritual. Similarly, the Kauttuvam was a temple ritual. Okay, the Churnikai was a temple ritual. All these were part of the Devadasis temple ritual. Then they were part of also devotional happenings. The Talat, the Lali, the Unjal songs. All these were part of almost socio-religious kind of happenings for the Lord. Then you had also purely artistic creations like the Allaripu, Varnam, Padam. All this also she is learning. She is really performing. Then she has special roles for festivals. During festivals, she does special kind of performances, special kind of forms that are presented. Then she also has a social role. The Devadasis' role has social. So, for example, Mangal and Alangu. So there are social contexts in which she is also performing. I presume that some of this were also probably done in houses of rich Brahmins or Zamindars, where child was born. In fact, that tradition was there even up to the 20th century, where if if there was something auspicious happening, they would have the Devadasi coming. And here again, I'm going to bring the transgender community to the thing, the whole transgender community. The whole idea that if anything good happens in the house, it's still there, you bring transgenders to come and bless the house and go. So this the whole idea of the Devadasi is very complex. The high power of the woman, the chastity, the idea of sexuality, then the idea of the transgender, all this is very complex in the psyche of the power that they have in terms of doing good, which also intrinsically means that they are very powerful and in a way dangerous, if you know what I mean. Dangerous because of the innate power that is seen in the woman. It's a very very socio-psychological kind of an imagery. So their whole repertoire seems to have been tremendously wide, and until at least the late 19th century, they were very, very important people in the artistic world of dance and music. Now, some of the stories that one form I'll talk about is, I spoke about in the music lecture also, is the Javali. I told you the word Javali, nobody knows what it means. Nobody has any clue whether it's, some people say it's Marathi, they say no, it's not Marathi, we don't know. But Javali, interesting, is a form that evolved in the urban context. It evolved in the parlors of Madras in the turn of the 19th century, in the parlors of Madras in the turn of the 19th century. Until then, the Devadasis were not done.
It's called the salons.
Yeah, okay, the salons in Madras, yeah. Salons of Madras in the 19th century, and that's where they've come. But all the others were there. Here we have to break and talk about what were known as the Tanjavur Quartet. They were 4 disciples belonging to the Isai Vellalar community, the Devadasi and Nadaswara community, students of Muthuswami Dikshita. They were the pivotal 4 individuals who gave us what has today become the form in which Bharatanatyam is seen, heard, absorbed, expected. So in a way, they gave us many of the more developed varnams, swarajatis, jatiswarams, even tillanas, shabdams, and all these forms. These are 4 men. Unfortunately, in terms of compositionally, it was always these men who did it. So you had these 4 men or all the other Isai Vellalar men who were the composers. Some of them were Nattuvanars, some of them were musicians who were singing. Now Vadivelu, Shivanandam, Ponnaya and Chinnaya were the 4. Now some of Vadivelu went to the Trivandrum court, one went to the Mysore court, 2 of them stayed back in Tanjavur. But they were very involved in dance related music composition. But of course the practice of this